The tailor of shadows and silks. Mist shrouded the city like a grey shroud, whispering secrets through narrow alleys and forgotten lanes. Leo walked these penumbral streets, worn shoes echoing against wet cobblestones, carrying the weight of another. Rejection. The crumpled envelope in his pocket contained the same cruel message he knew by heart. His art didn't align with current gallery visions. 3 years since art school. 3 years of rejected canvases, refused exhibitions, dreams withering like flowers without sun. Leo stopped before a fogged storefront, glimpsing his distorted reflection. Disheveled hair, clothes that had seen better days, and in his eyes, that desperate hunger for recognition eating him from within. It was on a street he'd never walked that Leo spotted something impossible. Where moments before only ivy-covered brick existed, now stood a dark wooden door, adorned with bronze details that seemed to move in the flickering gaslight. A discreet sign simply read, "Tailoring." Drawn by inexplicable force, Leo pushed the heavy door. The interior defied architectural logic. Space seemed to extend infinitely upward and outward, with shelves rising until lost in darkness, all filled with fabrics glowing with their own light. There were silks that sparkled like stars, velvets so black they absorbed surrounding light, and golden threads pulsing like living veins. Among the impossible fabrics moved an elegant figure in an impeccable suit of indefinable color, sometimes black, sometimes midnight blue, depending on how weak light struck the material. The man was tall, thin, with long, graceful fingers that moved as if constantly stitching air. His eyes were most disturbing, deep and dark, yet gleaming with knowledge that seemed to embrace all the world's secrets. The tailor, for that was the only name by which he was known, observed Leo with that smile that made surrounding shadows bow in reverence. He immediately recognized the hunger in the young artist's eyes, that desperate need for recognition so many others had brought to his shop across centuries. Leo wandered the impossible corridors, lightly touching extraordinary fabrics. Each contact sent flashes of memories not his own through his mind. A musician playing to ecstatic crowds, a writer holding her first published book, a painter seeing his work admired in a prestigious gallery. Each thread carried the essence of who had touched it, who had dreamed through it. The tailor led Leo to a special section where a single coat hung from an ornamental hanger. It was a magnificent piece, an overcoat of shifting color that seemed to capture and reflect all ambient light. The fabric radiated an aura of power, infinite possibilities. Leo could almost see himself wearing it, walking through galleries where his art was celebrated. The coat had been woven with extraordinary threads, opportunities lost by other artists, talents never recognized, potentials that remained dormant. In history's shadows, when worn, it would channel all this to its bearer, offering instant fame, immediate recognition, mass adoration. The price seemed simple, a small portion of Leo's shadow. Each person possessed a shadow beyond mere physical projection. It was the essence of who they truly were, their fears, insecurities, but also their authenticity, their deepest inner truth. The tailor needed only a small part of this essence, so small Leo wouldn't notice the difference. Temptation was irresistible. Leo nodded agreement. The tailor withdrew golden scissors, blades gleaming with otherworldly light. With precise movements, he cut air near Leo's feet. For a moment, the young man felt a strange emptiness, as if something essential had been slightly diminished within him. His shadow, once solid and well-defined, became imperceptibly weaker. When fabric slid over Leo's shoulders, transformation was instantaneous. Confidence he'd never possessed bloomed in his chest, absolute certainty of his talent, his inalienable right to recognition. The coat seemed alive, pulsing gently against his skin. Change was overwhelming. Next day, Leo received 3 invitations to prestigious exhibitions. Within a week, renowned critics competed to interview him. His previously ignored canvases were now considered visionary masterpieces. The coat attracted admiring gazes wherever he went, as if radiating magnetic genius. But with each triumph, subtle changes manifested. The coat, initially light as summer breeze, began weighing on his shoulders. More disturbing was what happened to his shadow. Daily it became visibly smaller, weaker, as if slowly drained of substance. 3 months later, at his newfound fame's peak, Leo found himself wandering the city's misty streets again. Something within him, an urgent need he couldn't explain, compelled him to seek the mysterious tailoring shop again. The shop appeared when least expected, materialized on a corner where he was certain it hadn't been before, as if it had remained there all along, patiently awaiting his inevitable return. The tailor was exactly where Leo had left him, working on a new piece with characteristic supernatural precision. He showed no surprise at the young artist's return. They all came back eventually. Leo observed his own shadow, now little more than a weak sketch on the shop floor. Terror crystallized into terrible understanding of truth. The tailor finally raised his eyes, and Leo saw something new in those dark orbs. Ancient, deep sadness accumulated across centuries, witnessing the same tragedy repeat infinitely. The explanation came as inevitable revelation. The coat didn't grant genuine fame to its wearer. Instead, it stole recognition destined for other artists and channeled it artificially. Each of Leo's triumphs consumed more of his true essence. The fabric fed on his authenticity, gradually, replacing it with echoes of stolen talents, shadows of others' dreams. Leo's achievements were real in that they physically existed. Paintings sold, reviews published, prizes received. But they weren't genuinely his. They were fragments of destinies belonging to other artists, woven together in an illusion of personal success. When his shadow completely disappeared, which would happen within weeks at the current deterioration rate, Leo would become just another ghost woven into the tailor's threads, his essence preserved to grant fame to another desperate young person. The choice was simultaneously impossible and inevitable. Leo felt tears he hadn't shed in months. Streamed down his face, the first genuine emotion since wearing the coat. Slowly, with trembling hands, he began removing the cursed piece. The tailor received the coat with reverence of one handling something sacred and terrible. Few had courage to abandon false brilliance for their own limitations' shadowy truth. When Leo left the tailoring shop for the last time, his shadow had returned to original size, dark and solid as it should be. The weight he'd carried for months finally disappeared from his shoulders. The fall was as dramatic as the rise had been. Exhibition invitations ceased abruptly. Critics lost all interest. Galleries stopped returning calls. Within days, Leo was again just another anonymous artist in a city full of them. But that first night, when he picked up brushes in his small apartment and faced a blank canvas, something extraordinary happened. The paint flowing from his brush was genuinely his, each stroke carrying his own vision, emotions, unadulterated artistic truth. The painting he created might never be seen by other eyes. Perhaps it would remain forever unknown, but it was real in a way his previous celebrated creations never were. It was his, completely, authentically his. In the tailoring shop lost among shadows and the city's perpetual mist, the tailor carefully hung the coat back in its place of honor. The fabric glowed faintly in darkness, now charged with another stolen essence, another story of ambition and regret, woven into its impossible threads. There it would remain, patiently awaiting the next. Young artists desperate enough to trade their soul for a glimpse of false glory. And there would be another, inevitably. In a city full of frustrated dreamers and unrecognized talents, there was always someone willing to pay any price for a little fame. The tailor smiled in his impossible shop's gloom, already sensing new, desperate footsteps approaching through the mist. His fingers moved in air, patiently stitching new threads of temptation and perdition. The cycle would continue, as it always had, as it always would.